For the longest run, I've been talking about how we as human beings, not only as women, but as human beings, have lost connection to nature, and how we're modernizing everything, how we're basically becoming a completely different species than what we were 100 years ago. I'm gonna dive into this fascinating topic about how the connection between the moon and women's menstrual cycle can actually be a huge benefit for us. And I got inspired by this because I've been diving more and more into the world of perimenopause and menopause, and realizing that a lot of reasons why women are going through such hardcore perimenopause and menopause symptoms is because they've had a hard menstrual cycle, or somewhere along the line they never learned how to synchronize with their menstrual cycle, so the menstrual cycle will work for them and not against them. So menstrual cycle, especially during the menstruation phase, can be a hard time for a lot of women. There are like a small percentage of women is like, yeah, no, I'm good, you know? And usually if they're good, it's for a small period of time in their life. And then as they get older, either before giving birth or after giving birth, or just whenever you're starting to hit a certain age, it starts to change, and you're all of a sudden experiencing these hardcore PMS symptoms, these long periods or very short periods, but very painful periods. So I'm gonna tap into the scientific evidence. Yes, you heard me right. There's scientific evidence on how we can boost our menstrual cycle with the lunar cycle. And we're also going to discuss the different phases of the menstrual cycle, just to have a little background, right? And how the mood, our mood and our energy levels can actually be enhanced and boosted if we synchronize it to the lunar cycle. But let me give you a little bit of a background first. So let's dive into our menstrual cycle. So our menstrual cycle is usually somewhere typically around 28 days, and this can vary from woman to woman, right? And it consists of 4 different phases. Number 1, it's the menstruation, which is the shedding of the uterine line. This is the bleeding time. Follicular phase is the week that we are preparing our body for ovulation. And then the 3rd week is ovulation. This is the time where the body is releasing the egg from the ovary. And then we have the luteal phase, which is the preparation for potential pregnancy, or for diving back into menstruation if there was not a successful pregnancy, right? So those are the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. In each phase, it is regulated by different hormones, and these 2 hormones are primarily estrogen and progesterone. We're not going to talk about them so much that deeply in, because we want to dive more into how connecting to the lunar phases, the lunar cycle, can actually boost our well-being during our menstrual cycle. Let's talk a little bit about how each phase is in the menstrual cycle before we dive into the outcome and the results, so we understand ourselves a little bit more. So when it comes to the menstruation, the bleeding time, this phase is about 3 to 7 days. And again, it depends on woman to woman, right? Our mood and energy usually during this time may feel a little bit on the lower scale. We might be very tired, we might have these mood fluctuations, feeling very bloated, our body is just not really there. This is a time for rest and renewal. And what do women today usually do during that time? We just go against our body's needs, and we keep on running around in that hamster wheel of life and keep doing the things that we usually do when we are on the ovulation cycle or the follicular cycle phase, and this is where the symptoms of a harder perimenopause and menopause are gonna come into place. This is where you're gonna be seeing that your body is in a hormonal imbalance. If you don't start learning to take care of your body now, when you're still on a cycle, believe me, tapping into that perimenopause and menopause, those symptoms are gonna come running at you. So it's crucial. So even if you are at this stage, very, very young, maybe you're in your 20s and you're like, I don't even need to worry about the perimenopause or menopause. It's years for me. I'm gonna tell you right here, right now, I wish that someone would have given me this information that I'm about to give you when I was in my 20s. If I would have had this information in my 20s, I would have taken care of my body in a completely different way. And if I would have done that, my perimenopause symptoms would not be so hard on me as they were during the last 2 years when I was trying to understand what the heck is happening with my body, right? And now finally I have created balance in my hormones and I feel more like my old self, or rather I don't like saying my old self because we never go back to being our old selves, but rather I feel more and more energized now. My energy is coming back and I'm creating the life that I want for myself every single day by having my hormones in check and in balance. So what is important during the menstruation phase? Rest and relaxation. Prioritize rest. Be gentle and kind to your body. Do activities like yoga, light stretching, go for a walk, be outside, be out in nature, right? And let's talk about iron foods. They are very important during this time because we're bleeding a lot. So iron-rich foods such as leafy greens, beans, lean meats to replenish the iron levels. Let's talk about how important it is for you to drink water, stay hydrated during this time to alleviate bloating. Actually, drinking water during this time will help you with alleviating of bloating. And last but not least, taking care of yourself during this time will set the stage for a smoother transition into the next phases during your menstrual cycle. So what you do now is gonna echo into the other cycles and other phases that you are going through. There we go. All right, so that's the menstruation cycle, right? That's the menstruation phase. The second phase that we go through in the 28-day cycle is the follicular phase. And follicular phase is the phase that begins after the menstruation and lasts until ovulation. And this phase is marked by the growth of follicles in the ovaries. What does this mean for us? It means that our energy is gonna rise, our mood is gonna become better, we're gonna feel more energetic, optimistic, and you're gonna be very creative during this time. Because during this time, our estrogen levels, which was one of the hormones that impacted our menstruation phase, they are gonna be boosted and they're gonna bring in more energy to your body. So the recommendations during this phase, and again, it's usually somewhere between 5 to 7 days, engage in more intense workouts like cardio, dancing, strength training. Nutrition, think about nutrition-dense foods. You want to bring back that energy into your body, right? So everything that has to do with more nutrition, more fruits, more vegetables, lean proteins. And another goal setting that can be good for you during this time is, since it's a high energy phase, is to start a new project, set some new goals for yourself. So this phase is great for taking on new challenges and being more active. Second one, follicular phase, is going to go into the ovulation phase, which is the third phase. So the third phase is somewhere around the day 14 in your 28-day cycle. This is where the egg is released from the ovary. This is where we are most fertile, right? Our energy levels are going up. Women usually feel more social, more confident, and even more attractive at this time. So recommendations here is to do more social activities, go on social events, dates, important meetings. When it comes to exercise, more high intensity. So take advantage of this high energy that you're having. More activities like HIIT or running, high intensity dancing. And when it comes to your diet, just balance it out, right? Balance the diet out so it will support high energy levels. So ovulation is the best time for us because this is our peak energy time. And this is where we have the best social skills in the world. I was actually talking to one of my friends the other day that during our ovulation time, we women just feel like we're on top. We are totally like high energy. We feel like ourselves. This is the way we want to feel, right? So it's kind of funny that during these 4 weeks, we have one good week, friends. I know, just a little joke there, but there is some truth to this joke. The last phase is the luteal phase. It starts usually after the ovulation, so like 7 days into the menstruation phase starts again. Your mood and energy here is going to start to decline, and some women are going to experience PMS symptoms like mood swings, bloatings, irritability, and this is because the progesterone is it's rising. So what can you do? What are the recommendations? Gentle exercises, right? Again, yoga, walking, swimming. Eat comforting foods. They need to be rich in magnesium, like nuts, seeds, dark chocolate. Yes, just make sure it's real dark chocolate, and reduce those PMS symptoms. And take care of yourself. This is a time for self-care. So practice self-care routines, mindfulness, relaxation technique, right? Now, if you listen to your body during this phase, this is the key. This is the phase that is gonna set the tone for the next phases. All right, so we have an understanding of how the 4 phases work in our menstrual cycle. That's perfect. Now that we have that down, let's talk a little bit about history, historical references. And why do I want to do this? Because there is a clear understanding of how we as a modern society has lost track of what is inherently ours, and that is being connected to nature. So I'm going to talk to you about something called the red tent. The red tent is a concept. It's inspired by biblical times, and it's actually mentioned in the book of Genesis in the Bible. So the red tent is a place for women of ancient cultures, especially in the Middle East, to go to during their menstrual cycles, during childbirth, and times of illness. It was a place, a safe place for women to rest, bond, support each other away from the male-dominated environment. So this was more of more than just a physical space. It represented a time of solidarity, of friendships, of sisterhoods, of sharing knowledge. It created a sense of community among women sharing knowledge with each other. So this red tent was very important for women during the menstruation phase, because it was a supportive environment for her to feel very, very safe in. So that was a good example how women can actually support each other and come together, and we can learn from each other. And let's take a look at the opposite in a historical example. You're gonna understand how that is gonna move us into the lunar phases. So during some periods of history that are associated with witch hunts, we're going to dive into how women actually were wrongly accused of witchcrafts. And the reason for this was men were very scared of the potential of female strength. And I'm going to tell you this, that women, when they come together, they become very, very stronger. So men in position of power, they feared that sisterhood, the solidarity, and the collective power of women gatherings. And these gatherings, they were a potential threat for the patriarchal order, which is the construct that we're living in today, right? like masculine induced society, and it was a time of male dominance, which we still see today, but we're, you know, creating more and more alignment in the world today. So more harmony between the female and the male energies. But female gatherings, women gatherings, and especially during the time of ovulation, was a huge threat for men. Because during the ovulation time, women become unstoppable. They are full of energy, they have heightened sexuality, and they symbolized as something that went against the Christian moral values of the time, at that time, right? So prohibiting women from coming together, especially during those ovulation phases, meant controlling women, meant controlling their reproductive rights and also their behaviors. And by limiting these gatherings, especially during these times, it was still a way of controlling women's sexuality and reproduction. So do you see the difference here? When women are allowed to come together in a safe space, we become the best versions of ourselves, where women share knowledge with each other. And this is why I'm saying that I wish that someone would have told me about this when I was in my 20s, right? So somewhere along the line, we have forgotten what it means to come together as sisters and sharing what we understand, and that is our bodies, how our bodies work during these different phases in our lives, whether it's your 20s, 30s, 40s, whether it is you going into perimenopause or menopause. It is a way for women to strengthen each other, right? So now it's time for what you've been waiting for. You're like, okay, when is she gonna get into it? Now we have a clear understanding. So let's dive into how our menstrual cycles are connected to the lunar cycle. So, as you know, our menstrual cycle is how long? About 28 days, give or take, right? And how long is the lunar cycle? It's 28 days. And if you look at this, coincidence? I don't think so. Now, historically, many cultures have actually linked menstruation to the moon, referring it as the moon time. And the connection here is based on similar length of the lunar and the menstrual cycles. And there is now scientific evidence that is showing up more and more. Some studies actually suggest that women may be naturally inclined to cycle with the moon. Like naturally inclined to cycle with the moon. For instance, in the absence of artificial light, like blue light, screens, phones, devices, we naturally synchronize with the lunar cycle, with the moon cycle. So modern technology, blue light from screens, they disrupt our natural rhythm. They disrupt our ability to sync to the moon. So blue light is actually known right now to interfere with melatonin production. And melatonin is a hormone that regulates sleep. And this can influence our menstrual cycle, right? So by reducing blue light exposure, especially before bedtime, this can help you maintain a more natural cycle. So syncing your cycle with the moon, often referred as moon syncing, can give you so many powerful potential benefits for your overall health. Like what, for example? Enhanced awareness of your natural rhythms. When you become attuned, when you tune in to your natural body rhythms, you're gonna have more self-awareness and also more understanding of how your body works. Remember, the menstrual cycle is supposed to work for you and not against you. Number two, improved sleep quality, right? By reducing those artificial blue lights, especially before bedtime, this will help you regulate the production of melatonin. And this hormone is what? It's crucial for sleep. So you will have less sleep disturbances and less suffering from insomnia. Number 3, hormonal balance, right? So when you tune in to the lifestyle of your different phases in your menstrual cycle, you will be able to tap into the lunar cycle, and this will help you create more of a hormonal balance. And when we have more hormonal balance, we have alleviation of PMS symptoms, or our mood is going to be more stable, our energy levels are going to be more stable. Number 4, increased energy and productivity. When you understand that you have natural energy peaks throughout your menstrual cycle, and when it's in sync with the moon phases, you're going to be optimized. You're going to optimize your schedule, and you're going to be able to work on maximum productivity, right? And maximum productivity means what? You're going to be able to do all of the things that you want to do in your life to thrive, my friend. So rest during low period times and be energetic during those high period times. Number 5, better stress management. I do like the sound of that, right? So regular self-care, and create effective strategies for managing your stress. Take time to understand, why are you stressed? Are you managing your anxiety? And know that there is a way to improve your overall mental health and well-being. And then one thing that a lot of women are going for, number 6, is enhanced reproductive health. So many women have a hard time getting pregnant now. It's like one of the highest levels of infertilities in modern times. Right now, there's so many studies on this. And maybe you tracking and syncing your cycle with the moon can promote that healthy ovulation and more menstrual health. It will improve your fertility awareness, your reproductive health, which will help you in better managing your menstrual irregularities, meaning that if your menstrual cycle is all over the place, you need to sync it so it's more regular. And last but not least, holistic health and well-being. So having a holistic approach to your health, integrating physical, emotional, spiritual well-being. I talk about the body-mind connection, how it's important for a woman to be synchronized with body, mind, and heart. This creates a greater sense of harmony and balance, and it improves your overall quality of life. So now that we have all of this information, how do we bring it all together? Let me just end this with a few practical tips of how you can sync your menstrual cycle to the lunar cycle. Number 1, track your cycle and the moon phases. So download an app to monitor your cycle, and download a moon app to see what is the different phases of the moon. Like, for example, new moon, first quarter, full moon, and last quarter. Another thing we talked about, reduce blue light exposure. So limit those screen times before bed. Use maybe those blue light filters that you have on the electronic devices, and spend time outdoors, especially during the daytime, to get that natural light. And if you look at the 4 phases again, so new moon is a time for focus and rest. First quarter is engaging in planning a high energy activity. Full moon is your ovulation time. Embrace that peak, that high energy of productivity. And last quarter is that phase before it starts again, right? So practical self-care and rest. So what can we conclude in the end of this? Yes, Monica is very passionate about this topic, about how to sync your cycle with nature, whether it's the lunar cycle, whether it's the circadian rhythm, whether it's us syncing to the seasons. This is something that I'm very, very passionate about. Us coming back to nature, understand that we and nature are one. We belong to nature and nature belongs to us. When we women naturally tap into our menstrual cycle and sync it with the moon, it's going to provide a different perspective on life. It will give you so many more benefits: improved hormonal balance, your sleep quality, overall well-being. And when you understand your menstrual cycle, you're also going to understand yourself. You're going to start to respect your natural rhythm, and you're going to create a lifestyle that supports your health, longevity, and vitality. Because in the end, I don't know about you, but I want to be in my 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on, and keep thriving with my life and have nature working for me and not against me.